Sure. Yeah. So in this session, we'll discuss about the OSGi. So when we go for this AEM framework, so initially we are having, so if you go for AEM architecture or AEM framework, so we are having three modules, right? So first one is Apache Sling, and after that we are having JCR, and then we are having OSGi. So these are the three things which majorly controls AEM. So first one is Apache Sling, and then JCR Java Content Repository, and then we are having OSGi. So this, if you go for these concepts, okay. So why do we use JCR? So JCR is nothing but Java Content Repository. So this Java content repository is nothing but your CRXT. So whenever we are going for this one, so CRXT acts as an hub for content storage. So whatever the content we are having in AEM, so the entire content is storing inside this JCR. So this is the use of JCR, Java Content Repository. And after that, we are having one more framework, which is nothing but Apache Sling. So these are the things we have discussed in the start of the AEM sessions. So we are having JCR, Java Content Repository, and then we are having Apache Sling, and then we are having OSGi, so Open Service Gateway Initiative. Okay, so JCR stands for Java Content Repository, and then it will store the data. So whatever the data we want to store inside AEM, so the entire data is managed inside this JCR layer only. Okay, so it is used for content storage. So it can handle any type of content. So it can be digital assets or it can be data. So it can handle any type of content. So how the content will be storing inside this JCR. So if I want to store the content, so it will be storing in the form of nodes, right? So it will store the data in the form of nodes, and nodes will store the data in the form of properties. And properties will be storing the data in the key value pairs. Okay, so the data will be stored in this format. So nodes will store the data in the form of properties, and then properties will be storing in the form of key value pairs. And after that, we are having Apache Sling. So this Apache Sling is also one framework which is used for request processing. Okay, so Apache Sling is one framework which is used for request processing, and then this request processing is managed by the Apache Sling. Suppose if I try to open any console, or if I try to open an asset, or if I try to open a page, so this is the request. Okay, so now this request is handled by the Apache Sling framework. So what it will do is, so first it will process the request. Okay, so while processing the request, it will get two things. Okay, so first one, it will match the content node. Okay, so whenever we are executing this something, so this request will be resolved into an resource. Once after resolving this request into a resource, so at that time this resource, after resolving it to a resource, so now it will check how to render the resource. So based on the extension we are providing, so it will render the resources in the different format. So right now the extension is .html. So that means this requested resource will be, so now whatever the resource we are having, so this resource will be rendered in the .html format. Okay, suppose if I want to render the resource in the JSON format, so then you will be giving the extension as .json. So when you give the extension as .json, it will render the whatever the content, whatever the resolved resource is there, so that resource will be rendered in the JSON format. So this Apache Sling is used for request processing. So while request processing, it will forward the request. It will resolve the request into a resource, and then it will check how to render that resolved resource. So by using different ways, it will render the resolved resource based on the selectors and extensions we are providing. So after that, we are having the OSGi. So this OSGi is a modular layer. Okay, so whatever the backend part we are writing, so all the backend bundles will be handled with the help of this OSGi modular layer only. Okay, so this OSGi is also just a specification, and its implementation is provided by the vendors of Apache, which is nothing but Apache Felix is the provider of this one. Okay, so Apache Felix console is implementing this OSGi. So with the help of this OSGi, we can get modular development layer. Okay, suppose we are having a bigger application. Okay, so that bigger application can be divided into smaller parts. So smaller individual parts, we can divide that bigger application and then we can easily develop them parallelly. So after developing them parallelly, we can integrate them and then we can deploy to execute our business logic. So that is the main use of OSGI. So OSGI also provides a lot of functionality. So if you want to pass some dynamic data, so for not only for the front end, suppose if I want to pass the dynamic content to the back end as well, okay, so like API information, keys, or some sensitive information we are having. Okay, so if you want to send those sensitive dynamic information for the back end as well, so with the help of the OSGI modules, we can send the sensitive information to the backend part as well. So that is the main use of the OSGI. Okay. So these are the different advantages we are going for the ASGI. So first one, it is fast. So entire development is annotation based. So there is no need to develop anything from the scratch. So it is entirely annotation driven. Adobe has provided a lot of annotations to get the flexibility and the connectivity between different things which we are developing inside the backend. So in the backend, whatever the development we are going to discuss, so the entire backend is implemented on this OSGI framework only. So except the Sling models, okay, so entire backend is implemented on this OSGI framework. So this is the start of the main concepts which we are going to be discussing in the future. So reduce the complexity. So entire application can be divided into multiple parts and those multiple parts can be developed individually. So we can also send the dynamic data or the dynamic updates to the backend as well. So not only the front end, we can also send the dynamic updates to the backend and then easy deployment. So in order to deploy these Java classes or in order to execute them, so there is no need to perform a lot of logic here. So simply when we use this MDM clean install command, so the bundles get deployed or the classes gets deployed and automatic process will be taken care by the Apache Felix container only while making them working. Okay, so for the same thing, we can use the different versions as well. So for now, I'm creating one version. Okay, so I have created one type of functionality. Suppose for the same component or for the same use case, I want to build a different functionality. So at that case, with the help of the versions, we can easily do that. Okay, so these are the major advantages of the OSGI framework. So that's why the entire backend has been implemented by using this OSGI framework. So it's just a specification. Implementation is provided by the vendors of Apache. So Apache Felix containers will be implementing this OSGI console. So this is the OSGI architecture. We have different layers inside this OEC architecture. Okay, so in this session, we'll be discussing about the modular layer, lifecycle layer. So by end of this one, so you can see the entire architecture here. Okay, so now if we go for a project, so inside the project, what we are having. So now we are working on a project, right? So we are just discussing one demo project. So AEM guides Marvel. So this is the project I'm using. So inside this AEM Guides Marvel, I have a lot of folders. Okay. So if I go inside inside this project, so we are having a lot of folders, right? So if I go for a project, AEM Guides Marvel, we are having a lot of folders. All core, dispatcher, tests, UI apps, UI structure, UI content. Okay. So lot of folders we are having here. Okay. So in this case, so these folders can be divided into two things. Okay, so we can because whenever we are deploying the project, so how we will deploy the project? Using Maven command we are using, right? So by using the Maven command, we are deploying the project. So whenever we are deploying the project, so these front-end modules, and we have two things majorly, front-end modules and the back-end modules. So these front-end modules and the back-end modules will be deployed not in the same way. Okay, so they will be deployed in the different ways. So front-end will follow one pattern and back-end will follow one pattern while deploying these modules. Okay, so to deploy the front-end modules, so if you go for the front-end modules, so what are the front end modules we are having? Okay, so when we go for the front end modules, so first we are having, so in the name only we are having UI dot front end. So UI dot front end we are having. And second one we are having UI dot apps. And then we are having UI dot content. And then we are having config, and then we are having all. So when it comes to the front end module, so these all are comes under the front end module. So UI front end, UI apps, UI content, UI config, and all. So these are all the front end modules. So when we go inside the back end modules, so when we go for the backend modules, in the backend modules, we are only having one backend module, which is nothing but code module. Okay, so this in the entire project, so all the backend has been implemented inside this core module only. So whatever the things we are developing inside the backend, so all the things will be deployed inside this core bundle only. Okay, so now when we are using this command, so how we are building the project, so which is mbn clean install minus p auto install single package. So single package is the command, or minus p auto install bundle is also command. Okay, so and then auto install package is also one command we are having. So to deploy the project into the AEM server or the AEM instance. Okay, so whenever we are using this command, so this how this command is executing. Okay, so this command is executing based on the POM file. So if you go for the POM file, so somewhere this command is already available inside this POM file. Okay, so mvn clean install. So basically, you'll not have the command. So you'll have some two plugins. Okay. So these two plugins, one is a BND Maven plugin, and second one is Sling Maven plugin. So based on these two plugins only, our project is building, and then we are able to execute that. So we are able to execute that. We are able to deploy the project into the AM instance based on this command. Okay. Uh, which file we are working on? Okay, so now, so based on the particular BNB Maven plugin or Slim Maven plugin only, we are deploying. So how the front-end modules will be deployed? So both follow a different approach. So front-end follow one type of approach and back-end follow one type of approach. So how the front-end modules are deploying? So every time when we use this mbn clean install command, so at that time, all the front-end modules will be deployed in the form of .zip file. Okay, so it will store the repository content in the zip format, and then this zip file gets be deployed as a front-end module. So for UI.frontend, one zip file will be generated, and for UI.apps, one zip file will be generated, UI.content, one zip file will be generated. So for each and every module we are having, so for every module, a zip file will be generated. And how the zip file gets deployed into the AM instance? So how we can deploy the zip files into the AM instance? Will contain the information. So every time when we hit the command, so it will follow the same process. So it will generate a .zip file. After generating the .zip file, so minus p auto install single package command will deploy the .zip file into the AEM instance inside the package manager. So we don't call them as .zip files. So the correct name of these .zip files are called as in content packages. So we call them as content packages. Okay, so right now, if I go inside any front-end module, so UI.apps, and then we are having one thing called as a target. So inside the target, these .zip files will be generated. So AEM kites Marvel UI.apps. So 0.0.1 is the version of the package, and then .zip file is generated. Suppose if I try to delete this one, okay, delete the zip file, no problem. Okay, so if again we try to go there, and if we try to run the command again, so again the .zip file will be generated. So right now I'll deploy again. So I will only deploy the UI.apps. Okay. So cd. So once the build is success, so at that time again you can see inside the UI.apps target folder, you can see one more zip file will be generated here. So every time when we execute this one, so these zip files will be generated. If you observe here at 1442, one more zip file has been generated. So what does this zip file contain? So if you are creating anything new, so at that time the updated content will be inside these .zip files. Okay. So inside this .zip files, all the front end modules will follow the same approach. So once we execute the command, so it will generate the .zip files, so which are called as an content packages. So later they will be deployed into the package manager in the AVM instance. But when it comes to the backend modules, so backend modules will not follow the same approach. Okay. So whenever we are trying to build this backend modules, which is nothing but a core module, so this core module contains a lot of things. Okay. We are writing the Java classes, right? So we are writing a lot of imports. So we are using maybe in some cases we'll be using some external data as well. Sorry, if I want to get some external data from APIs as well, so we'll be including a lot of content inside this core module when it comes to the Java classes. So if you observe any backend class, so if you observe here, a lot of imports are including. Okay, so these imports needs to be resolved. Suppose if I'm specifying a wrong import, so at that time it should not work, right? The functionality, whatever we have written, so that functionality should not work. So in order to make or in order to first thing it should mandatorily check is whether the imports are available or not. So whether we are importing the current data or not, or correct module, correct imports we are using or not. So it needs to be resolved. The Apache Felix should resolve those things. So in order to get those things, so with the help of the core module, we can do that. Okay, so Apache Felix container automatically does that. Okay, so how it will generate, how the package or how the core module will be deployed is, so this core module will be deployed in the form of an .jar file. Okay, the backend core module will be deployed in the form of .jar file. So what does this .jar file will contain? So this .jar file will contain a lot of data. Okay, so this .jar file will be containing a lot of things. So how this .jar file is generating and what does this .jar file contains? So we'll be not calling this .jar file. So the correct name of this .jar file is called as a bundle. So we call them as bundles. So whenever you are deploying the core module, so this core module will be deployed into the web console. So we have something called as a web console, and inside the web console, we have system console bundles. So in the system console bundles, so these .jar files would be available. So we can check the .jar files inside the system console bundles. So how these bundles are getting deployed, how these are generating. Okay, so they are generating with the help of this command. So that is mvn clean install -p auto install single package. Okay, so how they will be generated is, so if I go inside this bundle, okay, so just try to get any bundle here. So we are having only one module, one bundle, which is nothing but core. So go inside core, target, and then here we are having a .jar file. So this .jar file is called as an bundle. So just we can copy this .jar file and create a folder. So to check what is the content inside that one. So right click on it, new folder. Okay. So now if I go inside this executable jar file, so we can see a lot of content inside this one. Okay, so we are having a lot of information. So how this information is getting? So what does it contain? So we are having OSGi INF, meta.inf, and then com. We are having a lot of things. Okay, so whenever we are going for this .jar file, so how this .jar file is generating all these folders or metadata, how it is generating. Okay, so here we have one plugin called. So whenever we use this command, mvn clean install command. So here we have one plugin inside my POM file, which is nothing but BND Maven plugin. So BND Maven plugin. So with the help of this BND Maven plugin, every time when I try to execute, so this BND Maven plugin inside our POM file, when we use this command npm clean install, so the BND Maven plugin inside my pom.xml of the core module, so this BND Maven plugin is generating this .jar file. So every time when we run, so it will generate a new .jar file with the help of this BND Maven plugin. Okay, so and then if I want, so what does this .jar file contain? So this .jar file first contains, so if you want to have any, so we are writing the Java classes, right? So if I'm creating a Sling model, we have created. Okay. So how we have created the Sling model? So Java. So Sling model dot Java is one file we have created. So as you know, so whenever we are trying to execute, so we can't directly execute the Java classes, right? So if I'm having a Java file, so we can't execute the Java file directly. So what is the process it follows? So first we have to convert that into the mission code. Okay, so that means into the binary format we have to convert. So how we will be converting? So we'll be using the Java C command. So when we use the Java C command, so it will convert, it will create one more file which is called as a dot class file. And inside the dot class file, we'll be having the binary code, which is nothing but mission understandable code in zeros and ones you will be having. Okay, but in the Sling model yesterday, which we have discussed in the previous session, so we haven't created any dot class file. So whenever I try to execute, so if you go through the model classes also. If you observe here, anything is a dot Java file here. So every time when you observe, so everything is a dot Java file. So every time we are creating, but the dot class files are not generating. So how these dot class files are will be generated, or without generating these dot class files, how they will be executed? Okay, so this Apache Flix container is automatically generating these dot class files. So whenever you are going for a dot jar file, so this dot jar file contains three things. Okay, so first it will contain the compiled Java classes. So compiled Java classes is nothing but dot class files. Okay, so compiled Java classes is nothing but dot class files. So it will contain the compiled Java classes, and then it will contain OSGi INF, and then it will contain meta.inf. Okay, so it will contain the metadata, and then as well as it will contain the OSGI data, and then it will contain the compiled Java classes. So these are the three things that this .jar file is having. So if I now I have extracted one .jar file, right? So if I go inside this .jar file, so I'm having OSGI-NF. So this OSGI-NF will contain all the OSGI classes. So it will contain the JSON and XML data as well. It will hold. So this .jar file can also hold the JSON and XML data. So JSON files and XML files also it will contain. So it will contain the OSGI-NF. All the OSGI bundles will be contained inside the OSGI-NF. And then this meta.inf will contain one folder called manifest.mf file. So this manifest.mf file is important. So meta.inf is containing this manifest.mf. Mf. Okay, so this manifest.mf file is holding a lot of information, and then it plays a major part in the bundle lifecycle. So this manifest.mf file will plays a major part in the bundle lifecycle. Okay, so and then we'll contain the compiled Java classes. So go inside this package com.adobe.search marvel core, and then if I go for models, so slide navigation model dot class. So we have created marvel details model dot class. So all the dot class files will be available on the module whichever we are working on. Okay, so it will inside the core module. So we'll be having inside the .jar file. So this plays a major role in the bundle lifecycle. So every time whenever we are having a bundle or if you want to execute these classes, so there is something called as a bundle lifecycle. Okay, so whenever we are having a backend module, so this backend modules we can see inside the web console. So how to go inside this web console? So go to start.html, and then here we have options of tools, and inside the tools we have an option of operations. So go to operations, and then here we have an option of web console. So you can go inside this web console. So inside the web console, go into OSGi and then go into bundles. So inside the bundles, so search for your bundle. So what is your bundle name? So am guides hyphen marvel dot core is the bundle we are having. Okay, so just search for the same name. So marvel. So am guides marvel dot core. This is the bundle we are having, and then this bundle is inside this active state. Okay, so how the bundle is going into the active state, and every time when you are working on any project, so this core bundle should be in the active state only in order to execute your backend classes. Okay, So if you want to execute your backend classes, so the bundle should go into the active state every time. But before going into the active state, so it will follow several process of steps in order to go into the active state. Okay. So we have to know in which what are the different types of steps we are having, because every time the bundle will not go into the active state. Okay. So it might get stuck somewhere. Okay. So in the different life cycle steps, it might get stuck somewhere. So in order to check how it is stuck, or in order to resolve the issue prominently and fastly, so we have to know how the bundle life cycle is going on. Okay. So once we use this command, so that is a nvn clean install command. So at that time we have one thing called as an bnd maven plugin, and then this bnd maven plugin will be executed, and then it will generate this .jar file. Okay. So after generating the .jar file, when we use this command, that is -p auto install single package command. So here we have one more plugin called so sling-maven plugin. So with the help of this sling-maven plugin, so this sling-maven plugin is used to whatever the jar file that is available. So this .jar file will be installed into the AEM instance. Okay. So how it will install? So if you go to the pom.xml file, so in the pom.xml file, so we'll have the login credentials of your author. So inside that author file, so that will be generated. So at the start, so it will we have specifying. So localhost 4502, and then username is admin and password is admin. Okay, so this is how we are specifying the host, and then yeah, based on this one, it will be deploying the project into the AEM instance. So here we'll be having one more plugin, that is Sling Maven plugin. So which is responsible to deploy the project into the AGM instance. So this Sling Maven plugin will deploy the it will deploy the project into the AEM instance. Okay, so once it is done, so once it is deployed into the AEM instance, so it will not directly go inside this web console. Okay, so how it will go inside this web console, we have to understand how does it will go into the web console and how it will be going into the active state. Okay, so here we are having our core module. So AEM hyphen guides hyphen. Okay, so this is the core module we are having, and then how we'll be deploying? So with the help of the Maven command, we'll be deploying. Auto install bundle. So only backend, right? We can go for bundle. So when we use this command, so automatically it will trigger two plugins. One is BND Maven plugin, and second one is Sling Maven plugin. Okay. So and then here so this is our file which is in our local. Okay. So now this is our AEM environment. So in the AEM environment we have different layers. So first one is Apache Felix. So Apache Felix is the container. It is implementing the OSGi, right? So Apache Felix container we are having, and then we are having CRXDE, and then here we are having the web console. So in the web console only, so we can in the web console only, so we can view our file, right? So in the web console only, the bundle will be stored. So how it will go into the web console? So how it will follow? So when we use this command, it will get deployed. So once after deploying, so it first it will go into the Apache Felix container. Okay. So this is the first step. Whenever we deploy, so first it will go into the Apache Felix container. So from the Apache Felix container, so again it will be going into the CRXT. Okay. So in the CRXT, we can find the physical representation of our .jar file. So whatever the .jar file we are deploying, so to see the physical representation, so this physical representation is available on the CRXT. Okay, so go to CRXT and then in the apps folder, you'll have something called as an packages. Okay, so normal Marvel file will contain client clips components. All the development part will be containing this one. So if you want to view your core module, whether it is available here or not. So you can go for Marvel packages and then go inside content install. So if you observe here, not content, application install .jar. Okay, so if you observe here inside the application install, so here we are having the physical representation of the .jar file. So AEM guides hyphen Marvel core 0.011 dot snapshot. Okay, so if I go inside the JCR content and if you want to view the content as well, you can't view the content. Okay, so this is a lot of information that is available here. Okay, so inside this information, so inside this .jar file, what information it is containing? So this containing the main thing called as a manifest.mf file. So this manifest.mf file will be responsible to moving our project into the to moving the bundle into the active state. Okay. So inside this CRXT, inside the packages, so your project packages, so the physical representation of the module would be available. Packages. Okay, so after specifying the physical representation here, so now after the physical representation here, so now it should go into the web console. So inside the web console, so we have something called as a modular layer. So this modular layer, inside the modular layer only, we are able to see the bundle. Okay, so this is the modular layer. It will be get deployed into the modular layer. Okay, so inside from this modular layer, so how we can view the content, so how it is going into the modular layer. Okay, so how it is going to the active state. So from this modular layer, from the CRXT, so it will be getting deployed into the modular layer. And once every time it gets deployed into the modular layer, so at that time, here we can see the first life cycle step. So this first life cycle step is nothing but installed state. Okay, so whenever if I go there and if I check whether the bundle, if I go there and if I check the bundle, if here in the status it says that installed. Okay, so if the bundle is in the install state, so that means it has been just deployed into the web console. Okay, so after it is deployed, after it goes into the install state, the second life cycle step we are having. Okay, so second life cycle step we are having, which is called as an resolve. Okay, so second life cycle step we are having, which is called as an resolve state. So we have to move the bundle into the resolve state. So it will automatically move the bundle into the resolve state, but it will not directly move the bundle into the resolve state. So in order while making a state change here, something should happen, right? So if it is making some state change, so that means one action should be performed. Okay, so what action will be performed here? So whenever the bundle we want to move the bundle into the resolve state or if it is going into the result state. So here inside this manifest.mf file, we have a lot of information. Okay. So inside this meta.inf, inside the manifest.mf file, okay. So we have multiple informations which are available here. So inside this manifest.mf file, we are having a lot of things. So we are having a lot of headers we are having. Okay, so bundle activator, bundle category, bundle description, bundle name, bundle symbolic name, bundle version, and then here we are having export packages, import packages, and then we are having private packages, provided capability. And at the last, you will have the service components and Sling model classes you will be having. Okay, so this is all the information that manifest.mf file contains, and this manifest.mf file. So every time when we are moved, every time if we want our bundle goes from the install state to the resolve state, so at that time it will try to resolve all the import packages. So here we have one header called as an import packages header. So this import packages header should be resolved. So every time when we are running, so this import package header should be resolved. So that means whatever all the dependencies, whatever the dependencies we are having or we are using, so all those dependencies are available here. Okay. So whenever so all the dependencies are available here. So when all these dependencies get resolved by the AEM, so then only the bundle will move from the installed state to the resolved state. Okay. So once after resolving all the import packages. So if all the import packages are resolved, so then it will go from the installed state to the resolved state. So this is a mandatory step every time when we are deploying the project. So every time this step happens, so every time the import package should be resolved. So what does this import package contain? So it will contain the imports we are using. Okay. So it will check whether these imports are available in the AM or not. So if the imports are available, so then the bundle will go into the resolved state. If the imports are not available, then the bundle will stuck in the installed state only. So this is the second life cycle step we are having. So that is the resolved state. So now consider all the import packages have been resolved. So once after resolving all the import packages, so now the bundle will move to the third life cycle step, which is called as an start step. Okay. So it will go into the third life cycle state, which is start. So this start state, whatever the start state we are having, so this start state is an optional step. Step. Okay. So the start state we are having. So this start state is an optional step for the project. So that's why it is available here. Okay. So when it will go into the optional step is, so whenever we are having this bundle activator header inside this manifest.mf file, so then only the bundle will go into the start step. So which is an optional step, then only it will go. Okay. So in this case, for you, this bundle activator header would not be available. Okay. So if it is, so when we'll be using this bundle activator header is, so this in case of external database connectivities. Okay. So if you want to connect with external database connectivities, or if you want to make any custom connectivities, so then with the help of the bundle activator header, we can connected to the external databases. So in most of the cases, we'll be not using, but if you want your module to go into the start step, so at that time we have to go for this bundle activator header. So for you guys, it is not available. So how we can create this bundle activator header? Okay, so in order to create this bundle activator header, so first we have to create it. So inside the Sling models, so go inside the model package, and inside the model package, create one class called as an bundle activator IMPM. Okay, so here you can see I have created one class bundle activator IMPL. So this bundle activator IMPL is a predefined OSGi service. Okay, so it is an existing OSGi service which is nothing but which is available here. Okay, so once you have created a class which is bundle activator IMPL. Okay, so now we have created an package. Okay, so inside the Sling models, we have created a class called as an bundle activator IMPA. So there is no need to write the custom logic. So this bundle activator has been and predefined OSGI service. So just we have to implement that predefined OSGI service. So it is an interface. So just use the implements command to inherit the properties of an interface. Okay, so implements and then implements bundle activator. Okay, so this is an existing OSGI framework. So every time whenever you are implementing this bundle activator, it is throwing an issue. Okay, so it is throwing an error. Why it is throwing an error?
methods,
I can't hear you. Why it is throwing an issue? Uh,
abstract methods.
Yes, sir. So this bundle activator is an interface. Okay. So every time whenever we are having an interface, by default the interface contains the public abstract methods. So every time whenever we are implementing an interface, we have to override the unimplemented methods here, and then we have to provide the implementation to those unimplemented methods. Okay. So just quick resolve it and then try to override the unimplemented methods. Okay. So start and stop are the two methods we are having. So try to implement this start and stop unimplemented methods. Okay. So we have override the methods. So now once you have created this bundle activator method, so whenever the bundle goes into the active state or whenever the bundle goes into the start state, at that time the start method will be executed. So whenever the bundle goes into the start state, if you want to execute any logic, so at that time in the start method, you'll be writing that logic here. Okay, so only creating this class would not help to get this bundle activator header here inside this manifest.mf file. So we have to specify somewhere. So how this manifest.mf file is creating? So this manifest.mf file is creating with the help of the pom.xml file we are having. Okay. So this pom.xml file is creating the manifest.mf file, and inside the manifest.mf file in the bnd maven plugin. So when we use this bnd maven plugin only, right, the .jar file will be generated. So inside this bnd maven plugin, inside the configuration, after the import packages, you have to specify this bundle activator header. So bundle hyphen activator header is the one I am specifying, and then what is the value we am specifying here. So wherever I have created the bundle activator IMPL class, so that class I am specifying here. So whenever you want to this bundle activator, so at that time in the pom.xml file, in the bnd maven plugin, so we have something called as an configurations. So inside that configurations, we have to create this bundle activator header. So once we create this bundle activator header, and when we use the command, so it will in the manifest.mf file, so the bundle activator will be generated. So inside the manifest.mf file, so you'll be having the bundle activator. So whenever this bundle activator is present, so then only a bundle goes into the third optional step, which is nothing but the start step. So we need to have the bundle activator. Okay, so after the bundle activator, so whenever all the packages are resolved, whenever the third step has been executed, so now the bundle goes into the fourth state, which is nothing but active. Active. Okay, so this is the fourth life cycle step we are having, which is nothing but the active step. So by defaultly, whenever you want to execute all of your Java classes, so or if you want to execute anything, so every time we have to move the bundle into the active state. Okay, so if the bundle is not in the active state, you can't execute your classes or you can't execute your logics in the wherever you want to execute in the front end, or if you want to use a servlet. So those logics you can't execute if the bundle is not going into the active state. So very simple here. Okay, so if the bundle is in the install state means that means it is being just deployed into the web console. In the modular layer, it is being just deployed. Okay, so if the bundle is in the still in the install state, after some while, after you have refreshed as well, still the bundle is in the install state means that means there is an issue with the import packages. Okay, so all the dependencies which we have used, so maybe those dependencies are not there inside the AEM. Okay, so as the dependencies have not been resolved, the bundle gets stuck in the install state only. Okay, when all the classes will go into the when all the import package dependencies have been there, so then only the bundle moves into the second step, which is the resolve state. So after the resolve state, if the bundle activator is present, it will go into the start state, or else it will be inside in the resolve state only. Okay, so if whenever it is in the resolve state, so now it will check whether all the OSGi configurations are there or not. So once all the OSGi classes are available, so then it will go into the active state. So every time when we deploy, so it will follow the same process. So it will install, resolve, start, and stop. Okay, so that is the same thing it will follow, start and then active. So every time it will follow the same process. So when it is following the same process every time when we deploy, so we have to have the other methods, right? Because the .jar file is already available. So whenever something is already available, so we can't directly install the available one. Okay, so we have to remove the older version and then we have to deploy the newer version of the .jar file. So when we use the same command, so now it will go to the fifth life cycle step, which is nothing but the stop step. Okay, so stop is the fifth life cycle step we are having. So whenever we are trying again to deploy, so now it will go from the active state to stop state. So when the stop state will be executed, so this stop state is also an optional step. So inside the bundle activator, whenever you are specifying this stop method, the logic of the stop method will be executed. Then the bundle goes into the start step. After the sixth, so after that, here we are having one more life cycle step, which is nothing but uninstall. So uninstall. So this is the last life cycle step which we are having. So whenever the bundle goes into the uninstall state, so that means the bundle has been removed from the original console. So if you want to remove the bundle from the original console, so then we have to uninstall the bundle. So when the older bundle gets uninstalled, so at that time the newer bundle will be deployed and then it will follow the same process. Install, resolve, start, active, stop and uninstall. Suppose if I deploy again, so again it will generate install, resolve, start, active, stop option. So where can I check the bundle? So how can I check? So in the system console here, so when I open, here we have the import package. Okay, so if the bundle is in the install state here only, so here you can find out what import packages are not available. So they will be in the red color. Okay, so right now everything is in the back, right? So whenever there is an issue, so then I can check whether they are in the red color or not. So if they are in the red color, that means they have been not resolved. So that's why the import package would be available. So those import packages are not available when the bundle goes into the active state. So that is the major part of the import packages. Okay, so inside this manifest.mf file as well, we have a lot of content, right? So we have a lot of headers inside this manifest.mf file. So that could be the major questions if you are going for the manifest.header files. Okay, so first thing is we are having the inside this manifest.mf file, we are having the import package. So when it comes to the interview questions, so they'll ask you to explain about the manifest.mf file. So what does it contain? What is the prominent use of this manifest.mf file? So first it will contain the import package. Okay, so inside this import package, so it will contain whatever the dependencies we are having. So all those dependencies will be available on the import package. Okay, so we are all defining the standard libraries. Okay, so all the libraries or all the functionalities we are having, so all the things will be specified in the import package. Okay, so if you want to export some of the package, or if you want to send we are having a lot of libraries, right? So if you want to send all of those libraries, so those libraries would be available on the export package. So if you want to export anything to another chart files, or if you want to export to another bundles, export into another bundles or into another chart files, so then with the help of the export package, we can go there. So after the export package, we have something called as an private package. So with the help of the private package, so basically if I want to hide something, okay, so if I want to hide some configurations, and if you don't want to allow others to see some of the data. Okay, so at that case, we can specify those things inside the private package so that others cannot see or visible that classes. Okay, so after that, whenever you are creating a Sling model classes, all the Sling model classes would be available in the Sling model classes header. So these are all the Sling model classes we are including. So after that, we are having so if you create any OSGi services or OSGi components, so at that case inside the OSGi service or OSGi components, they would be available. So here, whenever you are creating these OSGi components, so they will be available in the .xml file. Okay, so these are the multiple headers we are having. So these headers are nothing but the metadata of the file. So bundle categories and then bundle description and then bundle name. So Marvel sites hyphen icon. So this is the name which we can see here. So these are the symbolic name last modified. So some metadata would be available in the top headers. Okay. So this metadata we are having. So these metadata will be available on the top headers. Okay, so create bundle activator. So this bundle activator plugin will be available in least of the cases we'll be using. So we have worked on multiple projects, but we have never used this bundle activator header. Okay, so in least cases we'll be using this bundle activator header. So inside this OSGI architecture, we have a lot of layers here. So first we are having the execution layer. Okay, so service layer is nothing but so first we are having the execution environment. So this execution environment layer is responsible to deploy the project. Okay, so whatever Apache Flix container is nothing but the execution environment. So after that, here we are having the modular layer. So modular layer is responsible to handle your bundle. Okay, so modular layer is responsible to handle your bundle, and then life cycle layer will be following this life cycle steps. So this is the life cycle of a bundle. If someone asks you what is the life cycle of a bundle, so then you have to specify this six steps: install, resolve, start, activate, stop, and uninstall. So these are the six life cycle steps of an bundle. And after that, we are having the services. So once after it is following all these steps, so at that time it will be going into the services. Okay, so how it will be going into the services? Whenever we are creating OSGi services, so then we can use inside the OSGi services. So it also have a security layer. So this security layer is responsible to provide the security. So whenever if someone is accessing the jar file, or if someone is deploying the jar file, so first it will check with the help of the access control. So it will check whether the user who is deploying or the user who is accessing is permitted or not. So whether he has the permission to deploy or whether he has the permission to modify the files or not. So first it will check. So with the help of the security layer, we can do that. Okay. So we have one more thing called as a Java virtual machine. So which is used to generate the dot class file. So this is something inside the Apache Flix container. Okay, so inside the bundles, so these are all the bundles. So every time the bundle needs to follow these steps, and then it will be going into the active state. So that is how it will deploy the, that is how we will be deploying the bundle. Okay, so we'll have a lot of questions on this OSGI. So life cycle of an OSGI. So what is the difference between content packages and .zip files? Okay, so .zip files and content packages both are same. So which will be generated when we compile the front end modules. So .zip file and then content package. So content package just contains the extra metadata informations. The content package will be contained. So if you go for what is the difference between .jar file and .zip file? So whenever a .jar file is a bundle, so whenever we are executing the backend modules, the .jar files will be generated. When we are executing the front-end modules, the .zip files will be generated. So to move the content into the AM instance, so this is the approach it follows to deploy the front-end and backend in the different ways. Okay, and then bundle lifecycle will be the question install, start, resolve. So you have to explain, not only saying install. So if the bundle is in the install state, so that means there is an issue with the import package. So if the bundle is in the resolve state, so at that time there is a problem in activating the bundle. So maybe some classes are waiting for some data. So at that case the bundle remains in the resolve state only. So if the bundle stuck in the resolve state, so at that time we can say that uh, so there is a problem while activating the bundle. So that will be some of the questions on the OSGI console. So if you want to build only the core module, so we can use the command which is nothing but mvn clean install minus p auto install bundle. So when we are using this bundle command, so it is used to deploy only the front end backend module, that is nothing but the core module. So if you want to build only the core module, so instead of building the entire project, so you can go for mvn clean install minus p auto install bundle command. That is it. So any questions from your side? Any questions from online? So in order to understand the next concept which we'll be discussing, so you have to understand the life cycle of a bundle first. So after that, you can understand.